Happy Friday. Welcome into Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast, presented by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks, Brendan Glasheen, in the host chair today, joined by Anthony DeBundo and Tanner McGrath. Friday best bets. We're going around the diamond, 15-game slate in Major League Baseball. You can hear our best bets pods every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday mornings during the regular season. So please subscribe if you haven't done so already to the podcast, wherever you listen. And you can also find us on the Action Network YouTube page. I would add also Sean Kerner's been red hot with his K-props. If you want some edges there, I know DeBundo checks out the Discord page. Get involved on the Action Network Discord channel as well. If you want to, it's a great way to build some camaraderie, some community vibes as the season really gets into the thick of it. So we just hit 200 episodes of Payoff Pitch this week. 200 episodes. To celebrate, want to thank our listeners. If you have not left us a 5-star rating or review, go do that. And in the coming weeks, we'll send out some Action Network swag or free subscriptions to Action Pro. Your choice. So leave us that 5-star rating and review, a subscription to the Pro account, or some swag. So whatever you'd like. Use your phone, your wife's phone, your mom's phone, whatever you have to do. We couldn't do it without you guys. So thanks for listening to get us to 200 episodes. Let's jump into the slate. We'll start with best bets. There's an afternoon game just after 2 o'clock. It's at Wrigley Field. We will discuss that later in the program with DeBundo. He's got sources on the ground in the Windy City that can give us an update on that. So we'll get to the Cubs. But first, DeBundo, a best bet outside of that one.
Yeah, let's go White Sox, Phillies, under 8, minus 115. Garrett Crochet starting for the White Sox. Got roughed up in his last outing. Gave up 5 runs to the Reds. Kind of a back down to earth start for him. But really, I wasn't discouraged by the performance. He finished with 10 strikeouts. The 8 batters reached base against him. 5 of them scored. So, some bad luck there and some timely hitting by the Reds. Credit to them. But the fit from the start was 2-2-4, and he pitched well with 10 strikeouts, like I said. So the stuff looks great. It's the fastball slider combination that has dominated most lineups he's faced this year. He has a 36% strikeout rate, 35%. I don't think he'll stick at that level, forever. But, the swinging strike rate supports the strikeout rate being 30% plus. So against this Philly lineup that really still hasn't hit well, I generally like the Phillies better against lefties offensively because Schwarber and Harper are pretty good against lefties for lefties. But this is still just a really tough matchup for their 2 best hitters in Schwarber and Harper. So I do like the under in this one. Spencer Turnbull for Philadelphia, since adding the sweeper this year, career high in strikeout rate, career best strikeout minus walk rate, swing strike rate at the career high, like all of the metrics you'd want to see from somebody in the midst of a potential breakout, you're seeing from Turnbull. And what I like about Turnbull is that he has a deep arsenal, so he can use the sweeper and the change against the lefties. This White Sox lineup post Luis Robert injury is pretty poor, 67 WRC plus. The Phillies have a pretty rested bullpen as well with the day off, and then Wednesday they didn't use a few of their top guys, so they're going to be well rested. Behind Turnbull, not a great weather for offense in Philly. The weather forecast has kind of changed a little bit. It was looking like it was going to be a little windier, blowing out tonight, but more like 5 to 10 mile an hour winds, so not really a noticeable wind impact for this game. So I do like the under 8, and I would bet it down to 7.5 even money.
I believe that 3 of those 5 earned runs came on a 2-out 3-run double from Steer, right, in the second.
Yeah.
So that's just a little bad luck. I'm fully with you on that under.
Okay, excellent. Tanner McGrath, we're turning to a pitcher that we discussed at length in our preseason pods. This team is 3-0 when he pitches. You're back in Freddie Peralta today on the road. Why?
Yeah, I came on this podcast last Friday and said I'm going to take Freddie Peralta and the Brew Crew, and I will bet on Freddie Peralta and the Brew Crew again and again and again until my fingers start bleeding from pressing that place wager button over and over.
And just to jump in, he was pretty dominant in that start against Baltimore. 6 innings of 1-run ball, no walks, 11 strikeouts.
It spun a complete gem. And, I don't think that there's a pitcher right now pitching as well as he is. After that start now, the stuff plus mark on his fastball is 139. That trails only Jared Jones. He's added velocity to it. checks in at over 95 mile per hour on average in that last start. He's getting good ride on it. It's got a 12% swinging strike rate, 30% called strike plus whiff rate. His complementary slider, 28% swinging strike rate, 50% whiff rate. It's getting like 12 inches of glove side break. So, predictably, after shoving in the second half of last season, which is really when I started, hopping on this train, 2.5 ERA and expected ERA through 3 starts this season. His FIP numbers are actually lower because his strikeout minus walk rate is over 36%. You know how ridiculous that is? He's striking out 40% of batters, walking 4%. He is allowing like a few barrels, but it doesn't really matter because nobody can touch him right now. Meanwhile, that takes us to Kyle Gibson, the Cardinals starting pitcher for today. Stuff plus marks across his arsenal are down from 93 in 2023 to 88 this year. He's got a 6 ERA, which he pairs with an 8 expected ERA. 0+ pitches, a tough batted ball profile. The only thing really saving him is he's got like decent extension and like ability to create ground ball outs, but it's not like there's any reason to be high on him. And regarding Gibson and the other Cardinal pitchers, I think, Anthony and Sean discussed this on maybe the last pod or earlier this week.
Mm-hmm.
If the Cardinals aren't hitting, there's not much to like about the team. The rotation isn't there. I think they have a decent bullpen because I kind of like the 3 guys at the back end, but they've been really bad in high leverage situations this year. They ranked 25th in Fangraph's reliever clutch metric. The once great Cardinal defense that has perennial gold glovers at the corners now ranks 14th in outs above average and 20th in defensive runs saved. And guess what? The worst part of it all, the Cardinals aren't hitting. They rank 24th in hitting WAR and WRC+. Their batted ball profile is a mess. The 3rd to last in barrel rate, 5th to last in hard hit rate. Goldschmidt is off to like his worst start maybe ever with a 48 OPS plus. The youngsters, Walker and Goldman, have combined for 22 hits and 41 strikeouts and 130 plate appearances. Arenado has been merely average in his at-bats. The Cardinals aren't hitting, and it's bad. And meanwhile, the Brewers, like I said last week on the same podcast, they're doing everything well. They're 3rd in hitting WAR, 4th in WRC+. They're 3rd in WRC+ against right-handed pitching. They're due for a bit of negative regression, but they still rank 4th in barrel rate, top 10 in hard hit rate. Their bullpen has been lagging a bit, but I really like the depth in that unit, and they are an excellent defensive team. 2nd in defensive runs saved, 5th in outs above average. I really like Jackson Churio as a 2-way player for them. From another player perspective, Yelich is obliterating the ball, although I think he might not be available for this game. I think he's on the 10-day. But that's okay, because Will Contreras is crushing the ball too, and 4 other guys have an OPS plus above 130. I like the Brewers a lot. I absolutely adore Freddie. And although he has struggled against the Cardinals in his career, he's pitching at a career best level, and the Cardinals lineup has kind of never been worse since he came up. I don't think that much of Gibson. I think the Cardinals are cooked unless the lineup gets straightened out, and their underlying metrics don't indicate good times are coming anytime soon. So give me the Crew in both halves. I'm going to be on them in the first 5 and the full game, minus 130 or better. And I'm just going to keep betting the Brewers for a while. I think they're the 3rd most profitable team in the money line so far. So I really like this team.
Freddie Peralta at the moment, the 3rd shortest odds to win NL Cy Young, only trailing Zach Wheeler. And he's actually right now the same price as Zach Gallen at 6-1.
Deservedly so.
Zach Gallen, though, I mean, that's just like a name, right? I mean, you guys
results are still there for Gallen for now.
I know. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. All right, let's move on. Let's see if we're going to fade the public today. This is the matchup of please sign me pitchers from the offseason. It's good. It's good eating here. Jordan Montgomery, who eventually signed with the Diamondbacks on a 1-year, I guess you call it a 1-year prove-it deal for his sake, even though he might be in the same spot next spring as far as looking for a long-term deal. He's on the mound for Arizona, and they're in San Fran to take on Blake Snell and the Giants. The money pouring in on Montgomery and the Snakes, 69% of the bets, 93% of the cash, according to our Action Network Pro tool, coming in on the D-backs as dogs tonight, plus 110. So a short dog. Tabundo, are we backing Blake Snell and the Giants? What's the play here?
I like the over, 7.5. We have a little bit of data on Montgomery from his AAA outing in rehab last week. Velocity was down across the board, 91.4 on the sinker instead of 93.3 average. Down a couple ticks on the curveball and the changeup as well. The spin rates were down as a result. Like, it just wasn't close to his best stuff. And I think, we saw both guys achieve career high, results and performances and market ratings last year, with Snell winning the Cy Young and Montgomery having such a dominant playoff run for Texas. That, now they have these weird springs where neither guy gets to like fully be on a team until a week before the season. Then they're late to get their first starts. Snell, it hasn't been all that different from Blake Snell. If you look at like his profile from the first couple starts, I know the ERA is 12 and he's given up 10 runs, a couple of homers, but it's the same guy. He's just had some, instead of getting out of every jam last year, this year he's gotten punished with a couple homers. So, it's a tightrope that Snell is always walking, and he's a high variance pitcher, but he tends to be on a roller coaster, and you want to back him when he's coming up on a trend, and kind of fade him when he's going downhill. And I think, Snell right now in the new environment with the new battery and new team, might take some time to figure these things out. And then Arizona, like I mentioned, Montgomery's stuff isn't quite there, but also Arizona's offense, they're very patient. They don't swing at bad pitches. They take a lot of good at bats, and they really work counts. So I know that, Webb threw a complete game shutout last night, or went deep into that game. The bullpen's pretty rested, but even still, Snell, I think, exits pretty quickly here. I'm not sure he gets through more than 5. And I like over as a result of that. I think there's going to be runs scored on both ends, and both guys are just kind of maybe not as good as their names would suggest at this current stage of the season.
All right. Very good. Tanner, similar sentiment here when you get these two lefties on the mound. How would you want to play this? Is over the play for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I also really like Anthony's over because kind of two pitchers that I want to fade. But I'm also going to ride with the public. I'm going to take the Snakes at plus 110 or better. And it's a kind of a short handicap for me because it's basically, sure, I'll fade Blake Snell again. Anthony, I know you said that you kind of think he's a similar guy. He's just getting a little unlucky because he's not getting out of jams. I actually think his profile is a little bit worse. Stuff plus number on his fastball is down 14 points. He's missing bats okay, but he's also throwing the ball more in the zone. It's actually up 6% year over year, his zone rate. And he's getting hit pretty hard in the zone. He's got like a 10% barrel rate. And I think that's maybe because his chase rate is down. His chase contact rate is up. These things could maybe stabilize, but they're not something that I want to back right now. And, either way, it's been bad in the early going. I mean, obviously he's due for a lot of positive regression, but we'll see when that comes. I don't think it'll be here against the Snakes because the Snakes can hit anybody. And so far in the early season, they have been much better against lefties than against righties. They have a 129 WRC plus. That's 4th in MLB against that side. Meanwhile, the Giants kind of around league average against both sides. So I think the Snakes have a pretty clear position player advantage today. And we'll see what we get out of Jordan Montgomery. I don't really have a lot of faith in him, but I'm looking to fade Snell more. And I think that the Snakes are the better team. I don't think that they should be dogs here. So I'm going to take them plus 110 or better. I think is good.
Okay. Yeah, to DeBundo's point, the D-backs third fewest strikeouts as a team in baseball, and they are tied for third in most walks in baseball to this point in the year. Snell's pitch count last start, his first start was against the Nats, 72 pitches, and then at Tampa, 78. 3 innings, 4 innings, respectively, in those 2 starts for Blake Snell.
Pretty fun.
All righty.
It's 3 innings, 72 pitches. 4 innings, 78 pitches.
A lot of pitches. And he's only walked 2 guys in each of those, but to your point, probably there's a lot of balls in there. A lot of balls. All right, let's go to Underdogs. Big slate. So where do we see value today, DeBundo, for a dog?
The New York Metropolitans, America's team now. They're red hot. I like New York plus 165 or better. Yoshinobu Yamamoto. There was a lot of hype about him preseason. People were, saying, Cy Young and Rookie of the Year. And I bet his strikeout overs in almost every start because I do think the market was a little short on his strikeout potential. But, I mean, his stuff looks very hittable to me. And I watched almost all of his start against San Diego last week, and the fastball is just not that good. And watching it didn't look that good. And then, you went under the hood and you looked at, okay, what's the stuff plus? How is it getting hit? 86 on the fastball. Not good. It's especially with a guy who's like pretty short and has the low, like he's not going to beat you with extension or intimidate you with overpowering, presence on the mound. And he's thrown a lot of them right down the middle, and they've been hit pretty hard. So his fastball is a lot of 554 slug and a 407 xWOBA through 4 starts. And so, 31.4% strikeout rate. The breaking ball is good. The curveball is good. The splitter is great. But when he needs to get ahead in counts or when he needs to throw strikes, he goes to that fastball, and it's very hittable, very straight, and doesn't have a ton to really impress. So I think that he's vulnerable as a result. Minaya, the stuff numbers don't love Minaya, but the whiff rates, the profile is still really encouraging to me. He's getting more swinging strikes on the breaking stuff and on the changeup. He's getting the highest swinging strike rate of his career, and he's got the highest strikeout rate of his career, and it's all better than last year when he was primarily a reliever for San Francisco. So the fact that now he's in New York with this Stearns pitching lab, where the Mets have seemed to get much more out of their pitching than we ever thought, I'm a believer that the Mets are undervalued here at plus 165, and I like them as my favorite dog here. The Dodgers outfield, Mike Petriello just tweeted this. Dodgers outfield slugging 307 this season, the 3 outfielders. Whoever plays in the outfield for the Dodgers. Obviously, they move Mookie Betts to the infield, but the Dodgers are not without their holes as a team, as good as they are.
Okay, excellent. Backing Sean Manaea over Yamamoto, basically, is what you're keen on today. Underdog, and by the way, to speak to your point about the Mets, they have won 4 in a row, and they are 8-2 in their last 10. The Mets hanging around in the NL East with the Braves and the Phillies.
I think they're Tanner McGrath for the playoffs. I mean, there's the big question, which is how does Cohen play the deadline? If they're right around 500 or a little over 500, what's the case to be aggressive? We talked about this on our NL East preview. Like, they can go and push some chips in, but what's the upside? Maybe they look at the NL and they say, hey, look, Atlanta, doesn't have Strider anymore. And, the Dodgers maybe are more vulnerable than we thought. And we can make a run at this. It's not the craziest thing in the world, especially if Beatty and Alvarez continue to have breakouts here. But it just seems like the smarter play is to not push all your chips in this season, given the current pitching staff. But again, they still haven't gotten an inning from Kodai Senga yet. So, when he comes back, things could really change for the Mets. And I think they're certainly live to make a playoff push.
He's always going to be aggressive, you would think, too, right, Cohen? It seems like he's more on the aggressive side.
It's tricky because
didn't they learn their lesson, though?
He's on both sides of it now, right? So, which does he settle on? You would generally think he would lean toward being more aggressive. But again, if you watch the NL playoffs the last 2 years, it should lead you to be a little more aggressive, just based on how it has tended to play out with the 2 best teams not winning a single series, the Braves or the Dodgers, the last 2 years.
Yeah, I know it was just
certainly not AJ Preller, pushing his chips in on every blackjack hand and yelling that he's good.
Well, I'm not saying beat AJ Preller, but they have some expiring guys and they have some decisions they can make. They could go get a pitcher if they wanted to. They have pieces on the farm they could give up. Question is, do they do it? But either way, I think they're live for the playoffs. Because you look at the rest of the National League now, the Marlins, we think we're pretty cooked, Tanner. We get your update on that. But, the West is good, but they're all going to beat up on each other, those 3 teams behind L.A. And then Philly, you expect to be in the playoffs. So that leaves 2 wildcard spots.
In the Central, everyone in the Central is going to beat up on each other, we think.
I'm down on half of the Central, so I think it's like, could there be a world where the Mets sneak a 6 seed? Wouldn't shock me.
Okay, very good. I mean, I think they learned their lesson too. It's easy to say this. Every move is its own entity, but they spent on Verlander and Scherzer and got out of those deals. And I think I think they'd be wise to hold on to their young up-and-comers. Tanner McGrath, Underdog for Friday's slate. What do you got?
I definitely am going to take the Mets with DeBundo because I'm not that high on Yamamoto, and I really quite like the Mets. Actually, I think there's a lot to like about that team. I think they're better defensively too than their metrics suggest. Like Zerillo talked about, I believe earlier this week on this podcast. But my favorite underdog of the day is going to be the Washington Nationals plus 140 or better. It is April 11th, and Hunter Brown has just allowed Bobby Witt to smash a 2-run homer for the Royals for their 9th first inning run. And if I remember correctly, Nobody has scattered 11 hits across 2/3 of an inning or something. It was like a genuinely historic performance from Hunter Brown. And the point is, what is going on in Houston? Because they're now 6-14. They're 8 games under 500, 20 games in the year. And the answer is the pitching staff. The Stros rank among the worst in the league in like every possible pitching metric. They're 25th in WAR, 29th in ERA, last in expected FIP. Their batted ball profile on that side is only moderately better. And that's mainly because half the staff is hurt. Luis Garcia, Lance McCullers, Jose Urquidy, Framber Valdez, Kendall Graveman, they're all on the IL. Now, this thing could turn around very quickly if the arms start to get healthy, because the Stros are still mashing the baseball. They're among the best lineups in MLB. And they're also 0-7 in 1 run in extra inning games this year. So some positive regression is probably coming in that regard. One guy is finally healthy again, and that's Justin Verlander, who will make his first start of the year on this lovely Friday. And obviously, at his best, he is a game changer. But I'm hesitant to say, very hesitant, doubtful to say that he's going to come out and shove on day one. For example, last year, hurt to start the year, came back in May, posted a 4.8 ERA and a 4.9 FIP through his first 5 starts. He might not go this deep into this game because I don't know if he's 100% stretched out. He went 77 pitches in his final rehab start in the minors. Oh, yeah. 2 rehab starts, AAA and AA, 11 earned runs on 14 hits across 7 innings. Not good. If he struggles at all, the bullpen still hasn't been much better. Like I said, Graveman is still sidelined. Hader, Presley, Abreu are all struggling. Houston's bullpen is only ahead of Miami's, speaking of the cooked Marlins, in win probability added. It's not been good. On the other hand, the Nationals, Mackenzie Gore's fastball now has a 136 stuff plus rating through 16 innings. It's up 24 points year over year because he's added 2 ticks of velo, sitting around 97 miles per hour on average. Right now has a 15% swinging strike rate, which has made all of his other pitches better. He actually has all 4 of his offerings right now carry a whiff rate north of 30%. So he struck out 23 batters across his first 16 innings. Obviously, his numbers are a tad inflated from an 11 strikeout, 5-inning shutout performance against the hapless A's. But I thought he pitched pretty well against the Pirates and the Phillies. The stuff numbers are really encouraging. And, he made 1 start against Houston last year, and he pitched 6 shutout innings, only scattering 4 hits. Meanwhile, the Nationals bullpen, it might be good. Kyle Finnegan and Hunter Harvey make up an excellent 1-2 punch in the back end. The Nats rank 3rd in bullpen WAR, 4th in WHIP. Harvey leads all MLB relievers in pitching F4 right now. He currently has a 0.1 FIP because he has a 39% strikeout minus walk ratio, no home runs allowed. Nationals bullpen carries like a 5% barrel rate, an 83% zone contact rate, leading to a strikeout rate over 25%. They're probably overperforming a bit, but it's really encouraging stuff. Obviously, the Nationals will be at a significant position player disadvantage. They are not great in the lineup, not great in the outfield, but it's worth mentioning that, in a short start to the season so far, they've been much better against right-handed pitching than against left-handed pitching. 110 WRC plus against that right side. And that's probably because 4 of their top 5 hitters are left-handed. Jesse Winker, and CJ Abrams have been obliterating the baseball. Verlander doesn't have big platoon splits, but the Nats hitters do. And either way, I'd give Washington a pretty considerable pitching advantage across all 9 innings here. I'm worried that Verlander could blow up or he isn't ready. And that's enough for me to take a flyer on, especially when, speaking of profitable teams, the Nats are the 6th most profitable team on the money line so far. They are a frisky 8-10, and they've taken series from the Dodgers and Giants in the early going. So, yeah, give me the Nats.
I'm presuming because you like Gore that you don't like the total over 8. Because based on the things you're saying, I'm just throwing that out there. Just asking.
That's a tough one. The number's probably about right. I don't know what the weather's like either.
All right. Some under money this morning. I agree with Gore having a breakout. I think it's real. Looks real to me. Watched 2 of his starts. The underlying profile backs up what I saw, which is that the fastball is much better. And he can get away with not having the best command of it because he throws harder now. And Verlander is a big question mark. I'm still in on Verlander this year, but I don't want to bet him in the first start. So I'm kind of passing here. But
I'm in on Verlander too.
Look, Abreu, Presley, and Hader have a long enough track record of being elite that I'm not like concerned about the Astros bullpen, but I do believe the Nationals bullpen. I agree with that. It was good last year. It was good, underrated group last year and won them a lot of games and already doing so this year. So it's an underrated group in Washington in terms of their bullpen. I'm very skeptical of this offense continuing at what it's done, but they're a frisky team for sure. And I don't hate them given that there's a lot of uncertainty on what Verlander really is right now.
I think I'll be in on Verlander too, and I think I'll be in on the Astros bullpen eventually. I'm just not right now. I don't see Verlander coming out and starting the season hot, and I don't see the Astros fixing their pitching problem just yet. I think it'll take a little bit.
Okay, on to one of let's do final bets. We'll wrap this up. The Cubs. The Cubs are playing this afternoon. First game of the day. Taillon's on the mound against Puck. Cubs, Marlins, 2:21 first pitch. This is the second instance in the early season where the Cubs are playing the 2 p.m. Wrigley Field afternoon game. One of the first ones, I think, was opening weekend or second weekend of the year, and they played the Dodgers, and it was an excellent game with lots of theater. 9-7 win for the Cubs over the Dodgers.
Against Bobby Miller. The Action Network Slack channel had some wars that day, a little inside baseball. But Mike,
if I remember correctly, that was not a system play though. We didn't. There
was no wind, notable wind. I think wind was blowing in. They would have been a nice payout because they were plus 150 to win the game. So would have been nice if you had it. But yeah, Bobby Miller, the chief of Mike Iannello's new stat called Eyeballs Plus, which he wrote about as a troll job on Stuff Plus. Was victory lapping Bobby Miller in the first inning of the game.
Oh, God.
After I think he had 2 strikeouts and like a clean first. And Miller ended up throwing 3 innings, gave up 6 or 7 runs, and did not pitch well in that one. He finished at 1.2 innings, 5 earned, 4 hits. Did not get through the second. And the Cubbies held on for a big win. They're home again today.
Yeah, so is today a play? Is today? And by the way, that number's come down. I think we were chatting this morning. It was at plus 115-ish, and now it's down to plus 104. Cubs on the run line today.
Yeah, Cubs taking a lot of money, and I do agree with it. Generally,
there's a but. What's the but?
But it's not technically a system play. I've consulted with my experts on this on the Cubs 0.5 system. We got some boots on the ground in Chicago. Friend Tyler Aki, who actually just did the Reinsdorf triple. He did the White Sox Royals doubleheader, and then the same day went to the Bulls game and the play-in, the sell the team triple header.
That's like his job, though. Doesn't he have to do that? He works in radio.
He doesn't have to go to the games as a fan.
He doesn't have to go, but he's like, that's kind of. And I'm not dumping on him. I'm just.
Yeah.
I don't know Tyler like you do. I know of him. We both wear orange. We're those guys. It's like kind of his job, though.
So if the wind is blowing out and it's warm, sunny conditions at Wrigley Field on a Friday afternoon, you bet the Cubs and you lay the run line. That is the traditional system. Unfortunately, we're close. We have the wind today. It's blowing out to right, but we do not have the weather. It's a little chilly, and thus not yet triggering a system play.
What the hell?
So unfortunately, not quite. But yeah, I do generally like the Cubs today.
Says on my weather app, it's sunny. It's going to be sunny all well.
Yeah, it's going to be like 58 degrees. It's not warm enough.
Oh, okay.
Yep. The system, which I actually did go into Action Labs last year and pull up the system. It was 70 plus degrees, wind blowing out, Cubs home on a Friday. Did they cover the run line more often than not? And the answer was yes, actually, since our Bet Labs data tracked it. It was marginally profitable. So it's a fun system we play, but today we are not playing it. Unfortunately, I wanted to because I do like Taillon, but unfortunately we cannot play the Cubs 0.5.
I'm glad you
want to bet it. Go ahead. I mean, have fun.
Thanks. I already did.
Their own, but we will not be counting it as an official system play.
Very good. And I'm glad you explained it. It's a bit. We did this last year. DeBundo gave us the breakdown. It's been kind of a thing ever since. If we get the Cubs, and no matter whether or not it's a play or not, it's good to explain it, remind people what we're talking about, and identify if it's a play or not. DeBundo, quickly.
We got May 3rd. We got May 17th. We've got May 31st. So we'll have 3 May Cubs .5 opportunities coming up in the next month. Those are our next 3.
Can you project the weather out that far?
Unfortunately, I cannot.
Probably
but,
could.
As we get into May, it does get warmer. So that I do know.
Thank you for
Yes.
that, for enlightening us. Do you want to quickly explain why you like the Brewers too, and then we'll let Tanner do 2 more, and we'll get out of here.
I mean, Tanner hit all of the points. There's a minus 124 in the market right now. And there's a full run plus difference between Peralta and Gibson, and there is no way that the lineup of St. Louis is good enough to overcome that difference in pitcher quality. So I love Milwaukee here as well. I'm on the Brewers.
Okay. And Tanner, you've got 2 more for us, both moneyline favorites today. What do you got?
Yeah, I'll go rapid fire, eat some juice here. Let's start with the Yankees. Yankees
Okay.
minus 160 or better, hosting the Tampa Bay Rays. I'm still a believer in Clark Schmidt. I kind of always have been. I've always been a little bit higher on him than some others. Stuff numbers have always been there. Right now, stuff plus market crosses Arsenal sits at 110, boosted by a pretty nice slider and knuckle curve combination. He's got a mid-3s ERA and expected ERA through 3 starts, 16 strikeouts in 14 innings. Walks are still a problem, but the Rays are free swinging and don't walk that often. So I don't think this is a bad matchup for him. And, aside from 1 blow-up appearance last May, Schmidt has made 7 career appearances against the Rays and allowed 4 earned runs, 18 and 2/3 innings, 17 strikeouts, only 2 walks. So for the Rays, I'm, countering him. Alexander's stuff numbers are dropping. He still has excellent location metric, but even his location plus number is down 5 points year over year. Mid-6s ERA. He has a mid-4s expected ERA, so expect some positive regression. But I don't think he's quite as good as Schmidt. And, the Yankees, they generally crush southpaws, 115 WRC plus against the side since the beginning of last year. I don't know, actually, if the Yankees have like a big position player advantage over the Rays. Obviously, they've been hitting really well, and the Rays have been kind of league average. I'd imagine longer-term projections probably have these 2 lineups closer than that, and maybe same on the defensive side. Still, Juan Soto is crushing the ball. Stanton looks good for the first time in years. He's got 5 homers and 63 plate appearances. Judge is having a slow start, but guys like Volpe, Cabrera, Verdugo are overperforming, so they're kind of carrying water pretty well. Mm-hmm. And big part of this handicap, Rays bullpen has been a disaster so far this year. Lowest relief pitcher WAR in the league, minus 1.1. Worst expected FIP, worst FIP, worst ERA, a 19% strikeout rate combined with a 14% walk rate, allowing a whole bunch of hard fly ball contact, 11% barrel rate. And that bullpen is a little stretched, and I actually think the whole team is a little stretched because the Rays played in Tampa yesterday in a tough 2-1 win over the Angels. Although Pepio pitched really well, he went 6 innings. They had to protect a lead for 8 innings after scoring twice in the first. So 3 relievers tossed over 12 pitches. Now they got to get up and head up to New York. Meanwhile, the Yankees had an off day after coming home from a Wednesday 3 p.m. game in Toronto. So I like the Red Hot Yanks here with a solid pitching matchup and a travel and rest advantage. And for my one other one, I actually laid some Phillies money line in honor of Anthony. I think the number may have gotten a little too high, but if you can find a minus 170 or better out there, I really like that. Garrett Crochet has been good, but Spencer Turnbull, just like Anthony said, I think he's a guy to buy. I think he's a breakout candidate. 109 stuff plus, 1.8 ERA, 3.4 expected ERA. He's striking out 26% of guys with 16 and 15 innings. And, the Phillies, obviously, they have the advantage in every other area of the game. Zerillo makes this line around minus 185. So I think if you can get kind of like a low minus 170, that's good. I think we're getting a slightly deflated price on the Phils here because Crochet has been so good. If you can't find a minus 170, you can see if it comes down or limit exposure, maybe bet a half unit or something, but I will be on the Phils today.
All right, gents. Excellent work. Good stuff from Tanner and DeBundo. You can find those guys in the Action app. Should they add anything else to the slate today? Our other contributors, you mentioned Sean Zerillo. Zerillo must be pumped. He's off on the pod. No write-up today. No UFC. Just sit back and relax. Good for Sean Zerillo. We are back on Monday morning for our next slate breakdown for Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast. As I said at the top of the show, 200 episodes in, 200 plus now into Payoff Pitch. So please leave a 5-star rating and review if you haven't done so already. We're going to give out some swag and also perhaps an Action Pro subscription, one or the other, should you be selected if you, do that. So more to come on that when we get to next week. Also, check out the Action Network Discord channel for Tanner McGrath, Anthony DeBundo, Brendan Glasheen. Thanks for listening to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast presented by BetMGM. You all have a fantastic weekend. Go Cubs.